Well, hi there. I'm Jessica Peresta, the founder of the domesticmusician.com. And if you're coming here today, it's because you are wanting to find confidence as an elementary music teacher. And I am so glad you're here. I have so much to share with you, and I know you will walk away today feeling more confident as a music teacher. Some of the things I'll share with you today are things you're probably already going to be like, oh, I already know that. And some things I'm going to share with you, you're going to be like, man, I didn't realize that. And that really does help me get some confidence in my teaching. So without further ado, I'm going to disappear off this screen for just a minute and share with you my slides. And then at the very end, I'm going to come back on here and I am going to show my face again. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you, my slides with you. If I can do this, hold on just a second. Let me make that full screen. All right. I don't know how. Oh, there we go. Okay. Like I said, this is the Teach Elementary Music with Confidence webinar. And like I said, I'm really glad you're here. You may be watching this from your home, your school, or even listening to it while you cook dinner or you're driving home from work. Wherever you're joining me from, I'm so glad you're here today. So this webinar is for you if you're a current elementary music teacher, wanting to become an elementary music teacher, have switched to teaching elementary music from another subject, or maybe you're right out of college and you're in your first elementary music teaching position, or you're about to get a new teaching position in the fall. I want to share what worked in helping me to have confidence as an elementary music teacher, and I'll share my story and experience with you so you can leave with ideas you can begin implementing tomorrow. In this webinar, you'll learn what you really need to know about teaching elementary music, and I'm emphasizing the word really because there's some things that you maybe don't need to know that you thought you did, and there's some things that you're going to figure out, man, I wish someone had told me that. What resources you need when you're just starting out, how to effectively set up your classroom, awesome classroom management techniques that work, how to know what to teach to each grade level, and how to structure your lessons. Ways to use your unique personality to effectively teach your students. And what teaching method to choose and how to use it. Do you feel stressed and overwhelmed teaching elementary music? Maybe you've been asked to start up an elementary music program, or you walked into a school that hasn't had a music program for a while. Or you're moving to elementary music from a secondary position and you just need help getting started. You guys, this poor lady, this is exactly how I felt. And I'm sure I look like this most days too, to be honest. Or maybe you're new to teaching elementary music and you don't know where to start. Then this webinar is for you. My goal with this webinar is for you to walk away feeling more confident and like you're able to continue teaching elementary music with joy. I have felt the same frustrations and remember being beyond overwhelmed my first year of teaching elementary music. So who am I exactly? So I'm Jessica, like I said, and I founded the domesticmusician.com, which is a website that helps elementary music teachers gain traction in your teaching. After graduating with my music education degree in December of 2004, I began teaching in January at a low-income inner-city elementary school in Tulsa. It hadn't had music for 7 years. After being at that school for 2 years, I earned the Teacher of the Year and Teacher of Today awards, and because I completely built up the music program from scratch. I'm passionate about helping elementary music teachers who feel like you need support and guidance that you haven't gotten anywhere else. Basically, I want to be the mentor that I had never had. I've taught several online seminars and webinars, have been featured in several podcasts, written guest posts, and I've also loved supporting music teachers with my own podcast and blog and motivation on social media as well. So I dealt with coming right out of college, feeling unprepared. Although I took all the classes I needed to take to graduate, I did all my practicum work and student teaching in elementary and secondary positions, I still felt like nobody told me what I really needed to know as an elementary music teacher. I remember thinking so many times, well, it would be nice if someone had told me about this, this, or this. And maybe you're feeling that way right now. And sometimes it's hard feeling that way because you don't want to admit to people you feel unprepared or overwhelmed because you're supposed to be the music teacher. You're supposed to know what you're doing, and you feel like if you ask for help, you're going to be looked down upon or be like, oh, well, maybe they don't really know what they're doing after all. I also dealt with starting my first teaching position in the middle of the school year at a low-income inner-city school. I already told you guys about that. But I also didn't have any teaching resources or a budget. I am having lots of resources, teaching materials, and instruments is nice, and it's so great if you have that. That's amazing. But if you don't, or you're at a school that you walked into in a situation like I did, where they didn't leave you with anything to work with, you can still confidently teach music to your students. I also dealt with being assigned a mentor teacher who knew nothing about music. This teacher taught third grade, and some of the other teachers in this school building helped me as well. So they could help me with things like the dynamics of the school, classroom management strategies, and answered any questions I had along the way the best they could. But what they couldn't help me with was how to teach music effectively. And then I also dealt with having to figure it all out on my own, because I honestly didn't know where to turn for help. I didn't know any other music teachers in the district. I emailed my college professors a couple times, but sometimes it would take them a while to get back to me because they were teaching their own students. So I didn't know where to turn for help. And so I had many resources from college to scour through and had no teaching resources at my school. I knew I just needed to figure it out, but that's easier said than done, right? Can you relate to any of these experiences? If so, you've come to the right place. I know what it's like to feel like you have nowhere to turn for help. It can be more than overwhelming. My goal with this webinar and with everything I do is the reason I started my website, is for no other elementary music teacher to feel like you're lost and confused in your teaching. I'm also a wife and a mom to 3 boys. Isn't this the cheesiest picture you've ever seen in your life? I'm married to my tall husband, Grant, and he's a computer engineer. And I'm a mom to 3 little boys. Owen is our oldest. He's the one leaning over me that looks scared to death. He is our autistic son. And then our middle child, Brady, who we call Sporty Spice because he is, we don't know where this kid came from. He's all sports. And then Reese, who's our cranky youngest, who we never know what's going to set him off. But yes, I'm the only girl in my family besides my sweet little dog, Tinka, who I did not put a picture of on here for some reason. When I'm not building Legos, drinking all the coffee, watching Netflix, or talking about music education, I'm cheering on the Razorbacks. Woo, Pig Suey. If you follow me on Instagram, you know on my Instagram stories, I like to post about sports from time to time. Well, maybe a lot of the time, actually. I've lived in Oklahoma and Arkansas my entire life, and this is where we decided to put our roots in Northwest Arkansas. It's actually like a hidden gem around here that not a lot of people know about. When people think of Arkansas, which you're probably watching this, you can hear the twang in my voice. You probably just think of horse and buggies, or that, all the other phrases I won't go into that people say about Arkansas, but Northwest Arkansas is really a hidden gem that's beautiful. So enough about me. Are you ready to get started? I know I am, so let's go. Make sure if you are watching this, you turn off any electronic devices so you're not distracted. I know if you're anything like me, I have always like 10 tabs open on my computer at all times, and I get really distracted easily because it's like squirrel, right? So I want to make sure you can focus. So I'm going to go pretty quick through these slides from here to the end. So I want you to really be able to focus. So make sure any distractions around you are turned off. Make sure you stay until the end to find out my 3 favorite music education quotes. I'll answer some common questions, and for a special surprise you'll only see on this webinar. All right, let's get started. Number 1, what you really need to know about teaching elementary music. All right, you guys, I'm just going to say it. Your bad days may outweigh the good at first, but that's okay. I'm going to keep it real with you in this webinar, you guys, and I'm going to tell you things that you maybe have not heard before. People probably didn't ever tell you this, and you're like, wait, I'm having bad days. This is hard, and it is hard, okay? But I want you to give yourself grace. It's perfectly normal to feel this way. You're going to feel overwhelmed, like giving up, or will try to fall into the comparison trap with other teachers. As you gain experience in your teaching, you'll learn so much of what to do or not to do. If you have bad days, know that it happens to every teacher and you're not alone. Your confidence comes with just doing it and just getting in there and figuring it out. That's where your confidence comes. The most important people you need to get to know are the janitor and secretary. You're probably like, well, how does this help with my confidence? Because I'm here to tell you right now, every person in that school, whether it's a parent or any of the support staff or any teacher, can be a mentor to you. So I'm going to share a story real quick. My one of my college professors, he was my secondary methods instructor, excuse me. He told me this advice. And of course, I didn't know what he meant by make sure those are the two most important people I get to know until once I said, like I said earlier, you jump in and do it. So getting to know the janitor and secretary, they're very busy. Okay. Forming a relationship with these two people will go a long way for you because when you start teaching in elementary school, your copy machine is going to break so many times and you're going to feel sometimes like, well, wait, I don't know how to schedule a substitute. And you're going to be like, oh, wait. And then your confidence kind of goes down, right? The secretary is going to help you so much if you are respectful and kind and get to know them right away with all the little things that you need to know that nobody told you needed to know. Same thing with the janitor. I don't know how many times my janitor came in my classroom to help me move the risers or change a light bulb or things that, just would randomly break or whatever would happen. And not to mention the kids that pee in the middle of your classroom. Yes, that happens too. And I promise it happens to every single one of us. But getting to know them is important because, like I said, just forming a good relationship with them, first of all, and being respectful, but you're going to need their help more than you know. Also, getting to know the other teachers, the principal, parents, and support staff. You don't want to feel like you're on an island all on your own. And as a music teacher, it's definitely easy to feel this way. You want as much support in your building as you can possibly get. The other teachers, you'll need their help when it comes to programs or discipline issues with a particular student, but also with, like I said, the dynamics of the school building. You're not going to know all the things when it comes to car duty or how did the kids get to the lunchroom, or then these are things that you don't feel like you can ask questions about because you're supposed to what? Like I said, be confident, right? But it's okay to ask for help. You're also going to want these other teachers to view you as the professional that you are. The principal, you're going to need their support in every area, pretty much. I'm going to keep it simple because that's the truth. If you want volunteers or support as the music teacher, you need to get to know the parents. And of course, that's not as easy as it is a classroom teacher because you have every student in the school. So like I said about car duty or bus duty, maybe you were just waving hi or smiling or, hey, your child did great in music today when you see them in passing. Simple things like that really do go a long way. There will be certain times you need to call a parent and let them know about their child who's acting up in your room. If you're on a good rapport with some of these parents, it'll really help when you do have to make that difficult call. The other support staff, paraprofessionals, teaching assistants, office staff, cafeteria staff, and everyone else, staff, not stuff, sorry, you'll need help from each of them from time to time. Be friendly and make a point to get to know everyone in your school building. It takes time, but is worth it. And the more you get to know everyone, all of them there's certain one of them that have been at your school for so long that they're going to help you with your confidence because they're going to be able to tell you about the ins and the outs of your school building and the things that go well and the things that need some, they can help you along the way is what I'm trying to say. All right. So this goes back to point number 1 a minute ago. You're going to feel lonely a lot. All right. I'm just keeping it real. Like I said, I'm going to, because that's me. If you've ever gotten to know me anywhere on social media or online, that's me in a nutshell. You're the only music teacher a lot of times in the building, so it can get lonely. Lots of times you won't know any other music teachers at first in your school district, or if you're at a private school, it's going to be even harder to get to know other music teachers that live near you. So you're going to feel lonely at first, and we're going to talk about ways to not feel lonely in a minute. But I want you to know that if you're feeling this way and you're lacking in confidence because you're like, oh, I'm just the music teacher, or people keep saying that to you, or they're like, oh, you teach music. Do you need a degree to teach music? Guys, I've heard it all. Don't let that, hear what they're saying, but don't let it seep in, if that makes sense. Be confident in who you are. And then it's okay to be you. Don't compare yourself to other teachers, but just be you. Choose your method of teaching, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, your teaching style and your unique personality. You are there at your school for a reason. You are teaching your students for a reason. There's no one else that can teach your students the way that you are, and I completely believe that. You'll be worn out. You're using your voice to teach and sing, and you're constantly moving. This is something I did not know about until I got in there. I mean, teaching kids is exhausting, right? I mean, let's just be honest with each other. But I didn't realize as an elementary music teacher how exhausting it really is. You're pouring all of yourself into your students day in and day out. You're going to be mentally worn out too. And remember, just doing it day in and day out, that's where your confidence comes. Make sure you're drinking a lot of water, give yourself downtime at the end of the day, and try to get enough rest when you're not around your beautiful students. You're also figuring out things as you go. So the first year that you're an elementary music teacher is a learning curve. Even if you're starting at a new school, it's going to be a new learning curve no matter where you are. All right, so let's move on to point number 2. What teaching resources do you need when you're starting out? This is something that can get quite confusing. There's so many teaching resources available today and teaching methods, and it can be overwhelming knowing how to start. So what I want to tell you first of all is start with what you have. So like I said, I didn't have anything except for I found in a cabinet some old textbooks. I'm talking old, like the kids on the pictures, you know what I mean? On the cover of the books were like wearing clothes that, I mean, I wore as a kid. That's how old they were. And so, but you know what I did? I didn't have a budget. I didn't have money. I didn't have anything to buy new resources. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use what I have. I went through those old textbooks and I found songs that I knew would be relevant to teach music to my students. And I taught those songs. I didn't necessarily always use the tracks because they were kind of cheesy sounding, but that's what I used. I didn't have any instruments except for one broken hand drum. It may have been a tambourine. I can't remember. It was a broken one of those. And I didn't use it. But what we did use is our bodies. We did a ton of body percussion, a ton of movement, and a ton of singing and speech pieces. So use what you have at first. Then you can build up to getting rhythm instruments. And maybe you're not confident enough to know how to do this. You're like, I don't even know how to begin. I don't know how to start with ordering rhythm instruments. Y'all, I can 100% completely relate. I was like, I don't even know a website to order them. I don't know what kind to get. I don't know what exactly I need. Although I had a music education degree, and you feel like you're just supposed to automatically know about this stuff. But what if you go into a school that doesn't have all this already available to you? I had to build this program up from scratch. So through a ton of research, I realized the things you really need besides body percussion when starting out. I did that for a long time with my students. But when you do have a budget or you get, some kind of stipend, I would suggest starting out with a class set of rhythm sticks. It's the cheapest option, and it's something that every student in your class can have. And then after that, you're going to want to get some kind of drums. So djembes, tubanos, hand drums, and then you can also build in small rhythm instruments, okay? Melodic instruments. What do you need at first? Well, like I said, you may not have anything. So maybe you have a piano in your classroom. You just play that so students can get used to hearing the sound of a piano. Maybe you're not a piano, maybe you don't have any skills in the piano. Maybe you play guitar, ukulele, anything along those lines. But maybe you don't have any of that. Then I wanted to tell you the first thing you could do is buy a class set of boom whackers. Not a class set, I'm sorry. They come in sets of octaves. So maybe you get 3 sets of boom whackers for your class. Then recorders are actually pretty inexpensive. And maybe you're at a school like I was at where the students cannot afford them. Then either use your own money, which I hate suggesting for teachers to do that. But there's also a ton of options out there for different places that will give you money to buy things, okay? Then you're going to want to eventually build up to having some xylophones, metallophones, glockenspiels, maybe even keyboards to use in your classroom. Or I know teachers now are using ukuleles, which is amazing. Technology. When starting out, you don't need anything. And I know you don't hear very many music teachers say that, but this is the honest truth. I feel like so much is talked about now, like buy these resources. You need this, the newest this, and these instruments. And all that is so nice, but that is not what makes you a music teacher. You are the music teacher. You are the one who can teach music to your kids. But when you do build up to have technology, maybe just start out with a student computer. That's what I did. One student computer that I used with centers. I also used to show some YouTube videos. We watched an orchestra performance, or there's music games. The different philharmonics or orchestras have different music games on their websites the kids can play. Eventually, you may want to get a smart board for your classroom, or maybe you share that with a bunch of other teachers in your school, and something to play music on. An old CD player will work, or some kind of MP3 player, or anything that floats your boat. And then other stuff. When starting out, you may not have very many things, okay? But maybe you're not just starting out and you just want to know how to gain confidence in your teaching. Well, and you're like, I don't know if I have the right stuff. Well, first of all, let's go back to that. Be uniquely you, okay? Your classroom, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, does not have to look like anyone else's. When I started out, I got carpet samples from a Lowe's and had students sit on that when they came in. They do fringe, what's the word I'm looking for? Fray a little bit. And so they kind of peel off, the material does. But you may have risers, chairs, and then you're going to need some teaching materials or curriculum and some bulletin board type stuff. Those are the things you will need. Does it need to be like everyone else's? No. The good thing about my situation is, since I did not know any other music teachers at first, I didn't have anything to compare it to. I just did what I did. Let's move on. Number 3, how to effectively set up your classroom. Do what's comfortable for you. We just touched on this a minute ago. Your classroom doesn't have to look like anybody else's. If you want risers instead of chairs, go for it. If you want instruments permanently placed in the middle of your classroom instead of by the wall, go for it. It's your classroom. So what you do is completely up to you. I am giving you permission today to be you. That is where your confidence comes from. Not trying to compare or do it like this teacher or this one or this one, or this is the way they told me to do it. No, do what's comfortable for you. What works best for me? So I personally, my personality, I've had a lot of people ask me this, so that's why I wanted to include this today. For my classroom, I really like to have my kids moving. And maybe it's because I started with having no resources, so we did a lot of movement. But I think moving in the music classroom is fun. So I would, when I finally did build up to having instruments, I would keep my desk at the back of the room, the small rhythm instruments on shelves in the back of the room, eventually recorders. And then on the other side of the room were the drums with some chairs to sit on. And that was pretty much it. The middle of my classroom, I like to keep open because we did a lot of movement activities. Then on the days I needed certain instruments to be used for an activity, we would pull those to the middle of the classroom and then put them back when we were done. It's okay to have open space. So like I just said, I like to have the middle of my room open for moving, but you don't have to fill every space with stuff. Having open space is actually a good thing because you'll be doing lots of music games and movement activities, and also need space to put instruments when you play them. Not to mention, you don't need every single wall full of posters and, bulletin boards. Sometimes that's great because sometimes you can refer to it and tell your students to look at something, but sometimes it can get distracting because they may be looking at that instead of listening to you during a class period. But I want you to also think about your classroom, okay? Your confidence comes from knowing your students, your classroom, your school, and be confident in your teaching style. So do what's best for you. Think about your classroom, okay? I want you to think about that right now. You may not have as much space as someone else, so you'll need more to get more creative with storage or have fewer instruments. Or maybe you're doing most of your programs in the gym, so you don't want to keep moving the risers so they stay permanently in place. Your classroom may not be big enough for risers. Maybe you're one of the, teaching on a cart, so you have to go to the classrooms to teach. Maybe your classroom is the size of like a closet, so you can't do much. So I want you to think about your classroom and what you learn here today. This is what I used to do in a lot of workshops. I would think about what they were saying to me and then apply it to my own classroom and teaching style, okay? So number 4, awesome classroom management techniques that work. Who's heard this one before? Or actually, you probably already say it to your students. Play before I say, I'll take your instrument away. Phrases like this, which no, I did not come up with this, are amazing. The simple stuff sometimes is what works the best. I feel like with classroom management, a lot of times teachers try to overcomplicate it, but the simpler the better, because what happens is there's two things. First of all, they're going to memorize this phrase. And you could say it every time you play the instruments. Yes, even with your fifth graders, even though everything you do is going to be cheesy to them, but you can still say this. They're going to have it ingrained in their minds and know what happens if they play your instrument before you say to. So what happens is if you could just use one child as an example, and you have told the class not to play their instruments. It's already midway through the year maybe, and they already know what to do. But this child just continually keeps playing their instrument, or maybe you've only given them one warning and you said if you do it again and getting it taken away. Well, what happens when you take little Johnny's instrument away? Then all of a sudden, the rest of the class sits up straight, puts their instruments down, and they're like, oh, wait, she's serious. Yes, and we're going to talk about that in a minute too, following through with what you say. So any phrases like this with anything that you do in your classroom where the kids know the procedures, it's simple phrases they can remember, and then using a child as an example so the rest of the class can see that you are serious really works. So I want to tell you to stay consistent. Your students will be able to tell if you're consistent or not. Have a plan in place and stick to it. You may need to change things up from time to time, but when you do, stay consistent even with that new plan. All right. So for instance, back to the phrase we just said, if you say this is the rule, I'm going to take your instrument away if you play it again. And what happens if you don't? The rest of the class notices that this child just keeps playing it, and there's going to be a trickle around the classroom, and you're going to see more and more because they're like, well, she's not going to do anything anyways. Classroom management, a lot of it is being consistent, following through with what you say you're going to do and doing it. All right. Have a procedure for everything. Now, when it comes to classroom management procedures, what I want to say first is when it comes to having confidence is this is one of the hardest things about teaching. You became a music teacher because you want to teach music. You don't want to feel like a babysitter, like you're just being, bad cop. But the thing is when you have a procedure for literally everything, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be able to teach your kids music more because a lot of those discipline issues will start dissipating because the kids know what to expect. They know there's a procedure for everything in your classroom, and I'm going to talk about which ones that you can have. And then you gain more confidence in your teaching because you're like, well, wait, I'm actually being able to teach now. So you're honing your skills as you go. So go over everything in your classroom with your students that you're going to have a procedure for. The more procedures you have in place, the smoother your teaching will go, okay? So for instance, you could have a procedure for walking in, what happens when it's time to leave, putting up instruments, getting the instruments, singing, when they have a partner, when they're in a small group or large group activity, procedure for what to do if they have a question, when they need to blow their nose, what happens when they need to go to the bathroom. I'm talking everything, every single thing. Have a procedure for. It really does help. It sounds tedious, but I promise you it really helps. And remember that you're the teacher. This sounds like a Captain Obvious thing to say, right? You're like, that's why I'm here. I'm a teacher. But what I mean is it's your classroom and your rules. Students need to know that they're expected to follow the rules. A lot of times teachers just want to form a friendship with their students, which is important to have a relationship, obviously. You don't want to just be, feel like a dictator, but you need to obviously have a relationship with your students. But the main piece of advice I can give you is to start out firmer at first, then you can back off as you go. You're not being the bad guy. You're just being the adult and the authority figure, and your students will respect you for that. Sticker charts work wonders. You're like, what is she saying? Okay, now, I tried a lot of different classroom management techniques, and for me, this is what worked. Now, like I said, take what I say in this webinar and do what works best for you. But sticker charts are super simple, and it's something that really is a visual that the students can see how is their class doing that day. All right. So what you do is when that class comes in, they can earn up to 1 to 3 stickers. It's a class effort. Now, if you have 1 or 2 kids just being a hot mess that day, obviously don't penalize the whole class for that. That's a different situation all in itself. But if the class is having an off day, you're not able to teach, and you're tired of yelling at them or telling them over and over to do it, then don't. Sometimes the quietest form of Discipline works the best. That's the honest truth. The times I would sit there in my classroom with the lights off and sit there quietly waiting, you could hear a pin drop. They all knew, oh, she's reached her limit. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to ask them a million times. I just sometimes would sit there and wait. And then I would quietly walk over to the sticker chart, take a sticker down, and they would immediately be like, oh, stop, quit. Oh, she saw us, be quiet. Okay. So what happens is they earn stickers or they can lose them. And it's up to you. Each class is competing against their own class. So if this fourth grade class can only earn up to 45 stickers by the end of the 9 weeks, and this other one can earn up to 60, because we all know every class is different, right? Just as long as it's their best, that's what you expect. And if they earn a reward by the time they reach the number of stickers that you told their particular class they needed to earn, they can have a day where they can bring in their own school appropriate music. They can have a whole class period of freeze dance. They can put on a mini talent show, a folk dance day, music games, technology, or a choice day. You're still doing music, but you make it a fun day because they earned it. If they didn't earn that a reward day, then you just continue teaching a normal lesson as usual. So I also want to mention before we move on to follow school-wide procedures. Now, your confidence at first, there were certain things I didn't know about when I started teaching in my very first school. I felt very unconfident when we had our first fire drill. Nobody ever told me where I was supposed to take my students. So we were what class I had in there for that period were walking up and down the hall, not knowing where to go. Things like that will happen, and you're going to be like going home that day going, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Nobody told me about that. There's going to be a lot of things nobody tells you about. Follow the school-wide procedures the best that you can, all right? But don't be hard on yourself if you mess up. We all have. We all still do. Number 5, how to know what to teach to each grade level and how to structure your lessons. Most curriculum will break down what to teach to each grade level, or maybe each grade level has their own set of books. Go back to what you learned in college or in other workshops about what each grade level needs to know. And sometimes that will help you just to kind of guide you, especially as you're getting started with what exactly to teach to each grade level. It's okay to do the same lesson with multiple grade levels, but extend upon it. Oh my gosh, this is something that people are like, what? I don't have to plan something for K through 5th or 6th grade for each and every week. You can if you want, but the way I did it is if I planned, and I didn't do it like, it depended on the week, let me say that. But some weeks, what I did with 2nd grade, I would also do with 3rd. But I extended upon the lesson for 3rd grade. For instance, if 2nd grade is learning just a simple melody, and then maybe we would add movement to it. 3rd grade maybe learned that song, but did it in a round, also added movement, but then also maybe added some instrument stuff that 2nd grade did not do. Okay. So it's okay to not stress yourself out about lesson planning. Lesson planning is one of the hardest things besides classroom management, in my opinion, when you're getting started, is knowing how to do it, what to include in your lesson plans. So simplify it the best you can. All right. Start with singing and body percussion, then add on instruments, improvising, and composing. Like I said, when I started out, I didn't have anything. So singing and body percussion and movement were huge for me. But I don't just mean if you don't have anything. I also mean in a school year. It's like building blocks. You know, in a math class, if students haven't learned how to add 2 plus 2, they're not going to be able to one day do multiplication, you know, with 22 times 22. So the same thing in music. It's like building blocks. You can't, the first day of school, have the kids come in and just do this full, huge instrument activity and composing. A lot of your students are new to the school and maybe they've never had a music class, but you also got to do some refreshers and reviewing things that they've already learned. So start the beginning of the year with a lot of singing, movement, body percussion, learning all the different musical terms and covering the simple objectives, then add on instruments to your activities. Then the end of the school year is usually when you can do a lot of improvising and composing with your upper elementary grades. Follow a curriculum map, choose your lessons for the year, and then break it down into 9 weeks. So I created my own curriculum map because I did not have one. And so what I did is when I went through those old textbooks is I looked at the songs that they had in each of these books, and then I looked at what each grade needed to learn in music class. And I created a curriculum map around it. Then I said, what can I choose to teach to cover these objectives for each of the grade levels? And then I broke it down into 9 weeks. What did I want to teach per 9 weeks? Okay. So what some curriculums and method books will break down what to teach each 9 weeks for you. Some state and national standards, though, are very vague and will only tell you specifically what to teach each 9 weeks for a few things like composing or recorder or rounds, for example. But the rest is kind of up to you. So you're probably going to need to do what I did if that's the case. If you're just finding it's very vague and you're like, I mean, it's not really telling me what to do, then you're going to need to kind of just put in the work to figure out what you're going to teach to each grade level and what songs you can teach to those grades. If you don't cover every single song and every single resource you have or every single workshop you learned a song from, that's okay. Pick your favorites or the ones that will resonate with your students and do that. Teach content and subject matter 2 different ways. Okay, you can teach it broken down into 9 weeks or taught throughout the school year. And what I mean by this is, let's say you want to teach songs from other cultures and you want to do some composing and you want to do some speech pieces. Okay, so maybe you do units. Maybe you're like, first 9 weeks with my 4th graders, I'm going to do songs from other cultures. And then I want to do composing the 4th 9 weeks of school. But when it comes to, or you could do it this way. What I mean by teach it throughout the school year is instead of doing a unit where you do it all within like, I don't know, 4 weeks, you go, no, I'm going to have a culture of the month and teach a different song from that culture throughout the school year. And I'm going to do a bunch of different composing activities throughout the school year. Whatever way you come up with is completely fine. And let's go back to that. Be uniquely you. So I've had a lot of people ask me about this. So I wanted to share this as well. How do you structure a 45-minute lesson? Now, I realize some of you see your students more than that, and some of you see them less than that. So how do you structure a 45-minute lesson? I'm going to just quickly go over this. So the way I broke it down, you have a warm-up for like 2 minutes, and this can be a vocal warm-up or body percussion. It depends on what you're doing with your students that day, okay? And then you're going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes, I almost said musics, 5 to 10 minutes reviewing something the kids have learned the previous time you saw them. It could be a song or an activity, or maybe you're working on a program, so you review song 1 before you move to number 2. And then you're going to move on to the core of the lesson. And this is when you, for 15 to 20 minutes, you teach a new concept, a new song, activity, instruments, program, movement, composing. And then if you don't have a lot to review, then you can spend more time on the core of the lesson. Then because I always like to incorporate some kind of game or activity, use that with the 10 minutes for 10 minutes. And then you're going to do a review or closing. A story. Maybe you're rapping, maybe you've been going over a certain composer, so that's the time you read them a story. I like to do calm activities at the end of the lesson because it settles the kids back down. Or your closing could just be simply asking them questions about what they learned that day. I like doing popcorn questions where the kids answer and then they get to line up as they answer questions. Number 6, ways to use your unique personality to effectively teach your students. This is something we touched on a minute ago. Like I said earlier, it's okay to be you. This will help you tremendously with confidence in teaching music when you realize you don't have to be like anyone else. If you see Sally Sue down the street who has 25 orphan instruments and her kids are quiet as little church mice, and you're like, oh, my students aren't like that. Oh, I don't have that many instruments. So you just start feeling unconfident. I couldn't remember how to say the word wow. So that's okay. Don't worry about what they're doing. You stay in your lane and focus on your students and your music teaching. Be you. Use your unique personality. Don't be afraid to think outside the box and do things your way. Take what you learn in workshops or professional development and make it your own. What I mean is you don't have to do things the same as everyone else and can be you. If you learn something in a workshop, I did this a lot, think about your students and how they will respond if you teach that lesson. You probably have a running binder already of everything you've learned, so it's there to pull from. But if you don't have to follow the lesson exactly to a T and can add your own extensions to it. This happened a lot where I would learn an activity or a song and it was good, but I knew my students would not respond to it the way that they were teaching it because I taught in a very inner city school. And so I had to cater to my students and maybe change up the movement activity to do something different. And that's what you maybe need to do. Take what you learn and then instead of just disregarding it altogether, say, how can I make this fit for my students? All right. And just because the teacher before you did things a certain way doesn't mean you need to. I know this is such a tough one, y'all. If you're at a school where you're walking in the previous teacher's footsteps or shadow, it'll take time, but eventually the staff and students will realize you're a different person and teacher. Give it time and stay patient and consistent. You just keep being confident in you. Keep doing the way you do. Keep listening to constructive criticism and you're like, oh, really? She did the program that way. That's great. And then be like, But it's a slow process. You stay confident and they're going to be like, oh, this Miss Smith really does know what she's doing. She doesn't have to do it the way Mr. Jones did it, right? Stay confident and know it just takes time. When there's a change, it just takes time. Don't compare yourself to any other teacher. We talked about this a minute ago. You get to be you. Get to be you. You get to be you. I cannot emphasize that enough. Don't fall into the comparison trap. It can be so easy to feel sorry for yourself or to see others have so many more instruments or things. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's journey. Let me say that again. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's journey because they're probably a lot further than you and they started just where you are right now. They may seem confident, but when they were just starting out, they probably weren't as confident as they are now. Be fun and have a personality. This is something huge, y'all. Obviously be the teacher and let your students know your expectations, which we talked about earlier. But don't be afraid to have fun with them and to let your true personality shine. Would you want to go into a music classroom that was ho-hum and boring and you just sat still the whole time? No, me either. Think about one of the reasons you became a music teacher. Maybe your elementary music teacher was that way. Maybe they were just boring and you love music, but you did not like going to music class. So you became a music teacher because you want to inspire kids and you want them to have fun learning music because that's the whole goal of it, isn't it? Create an experience for your students where they want to come to music class and are excited to learn music from you. What teaching method to choose and how to use it. Take time to explore your options. It's overwhelming, guys. There's so much out there. And so you're like, I'm not confident if I'm making the right choice. And I'm not confident if I'm teaching it the right way. So here's how to do this. There's so many awesome teaching methods out there. The three main ones are Orff, Kodály, and Dalcroze. It took me a while to decide which method or methods I wanted to use. So if you don't know much about the options, then research them, learn about them, go to the different Orff or Kodály levels, ask other teachers about them, and you'll figure out eventually which one or ones match your personality and your teaching style and that you're comfortable using. You can choose more than one. This is something that I feel like people are mind blown when they hear this. They're like, oh, I don't have to just do Orff. No, you don't, because here's what happens. You're probably already seeing how some music teachers are either pro Kodály or Orff, and some will not budge no matter what, right? Well, back to the you be uniquely you that I said earlier. When I first started teaching, I was in a very heavy Orff-centered approach district. I did take Orff level 1 and a ton of Orff workshops, and then I also took a lot of Kodály workshops. And I discovered I liked things from both approaches. I've kind of felt like the black sheep in my district because of this. Because when people would talk about which method they like to use, I would say yes. I would say I use all of it because I would incorporate things I liked from all of them. My piano background, I was a piano performance major in college as well, just 3 credits short of not having that degree. But anyways, my piano background, I really love reading music. I love teaching kids how to read music and how to write music and how those things that go along with Kodály. But I also love movement and playing instruments. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the methods. The Orff approach is mainly known for the Orff instruments, but it's really a combination of speech, movement, instruments, and singing. The Kodály approach includes a lot of solfege, sight reading, and sequential musical learning. Dalcroze's approach connects music, movement, mind, and body. So you can kind of see just through those short descriptions how you could probably pull from each of those and really do a great job doing it. Infuse the music methods with your own musicianship in your classroom. Take from these approaches and infuse your own personality, but also your musicianship in your classroom. So like I said, my musical background includes lots of piano and also clarinet. So this was brought into my classroom. Me, how I was as a musician really affected how I taught music. So my clarinet background, I really enjoyed teaching recorder, and I also had keyboards in my classroom because those things were things I was passionate about. So isn't it what you're passionate about is what your students will become passionate about? And as long as they're learning music and you're teaching them the objectives they need to know, that's the main goal. So remember at the beginning of the webinar when I asked you if you feel stressed out and overwhelmed teaching elementary music. You've learned so much in this webinar that will help you gain the confidence you need as an elementary music teacher. But the webinar just skimmed the surface and covered the basics of what you need to know. You don't have to feel overwhelmed teaching elementary music, and you can teach with confidence. You are capable of being an amazing elementary music teacher, even if you've never taught elementary music before. Maybe you're coming to elementary music from another subject, secondary music, or from teaching private lessons. If you feel incapable or unqualified because you're comparing yourself to other teachers, I felt those same feelings. And like I said, it's completely normal. You're right out of college. Sometimes the best teachers are the ones with the newest and freshest ideas. You feel like you have no idea what you're doing. Raising my hand, you can't see me, but yes. Don't we all? Have you heard the phrase, fake it till you make it? Well, that was my motto for the first few months. You, my friend, are the exact reason I created what I wish was around when I was just starting out as an elementary music teacher. My heart and passion is to help other elementary music teachers who are needing a mentor or help getting going in their elementary music teaching career. The first thing the Elementary Music Teacher Academy includes is teacher training. Here's a sample of what a training video looks like. Okay, so first of all, when you hover over each video graphic, you'll see a cover photo, and when you click on it, you'll see the training and it'll come up and you can watch it. So let's watch a little sample of this so you can see what a training looks like. So that's a sample of what that will look like. So basically it's me talking directly to camera, and the trainings are really in-depth and detailed, even the short ones. Oh, so sorry. Okay, so, well, like I said, when you hover over each video lesson, you can see a description come out that talks about what the training is going to discuss, and then key takeaways you'll get from each training. And by the way, every video inside of the Academy are all downloadable, so you can watch them from anywhere, anytime, even if you don't have Wi-Fi. They're also able to be watched not just on computer, but any tablet or smartphone. So the key takeaways look kind of like this. When under each video in the Academy, it'll look like this when it says, so like for instance, the key takeaway from this video, the first one was listen to an unfamiliar song and become familiar with it and practice it before you try to teach it. But remember to give yourself grace as well. So these are snippets of things I said throughout the video that are the key takeaways. If you don't have time to watch the video, or maybe it's just not something that you need, you can always read the key takeaways and you'll still learn. Below each video is where the video download button is, where you can download the videos. And then the bonus downloads, those are all the PDF resources included in the Academy as well. So you'll also get, like I just mentioned, PDF resources, which is links to resource list, a sample parent letter, how to structure a class period, and so much more. And so just like I said with the videos, constantly new ones being added, PDF resources as well. So the recommended resource list, this one, like you see right here, it's hard to read, but classroom management and procedures. I include resources from all over the internet from educators I trust, whether they're music educators or regular classroom teachers or education websites, different blog posts, podcast episodes, YouTube videos, TED Talks, books, articles you need to read I link out to these. So when you download these PDFs, you can click on the links and it'll take you there to see those. Over here in the black squares, you can see some of the resources that are included that you can download. So like how to prepare for next school year, some of the different recommended resource lists there, a whole holiday song and calendar suggestions. So a holiday calendar and song suggestions for each holiday, if that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing that's included is the Elementary Music Teacher Blueprint course. In the Blueprint course, I teach on slides just like I'm doing right now. It's a lot more detailed and there's bullet points with each lesson. So here's what a couple of the lessons look like. And the first lesson's not called Who Am I? I don't know why it says that. But the first lesson actually talks a lot about classroom management procedures, but also introduces myself a little bit. And so it's 20 lessons that include 20 printable worksheets to go along with each lesson, and I'll explain those in a minute. Basically, this course is created for any music teacher, whether you're just starting out, you've transitioned to elementary music, maybe you're a professional musician and you've never taught elementary music, or you've been teaching a few years, but you just kind of need a little bit of some help. And this is what this course does. It goes step by step by step in how to teach the lesson. Not to teach the lesson, sorry, how to teach elementary music is what I meant. And then under each video in the Academy, you'll see up next, and it shows you which videos to play next. And that's really helpful to know which ones it suggests you watch next as well. So here's what a sample lesson looks like from the Elementary Music Teacher Blueprint course. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what those lessons will look like. They're all bullet points, easy to follow along and easy to take notes to. Each training shows you how long it is. And like I said, they're all downloadable, so you can watch it anywhere from any time. Under any of the videos, you can leave comments or questions. There's a box to do that, and any member of the Academy or myself can reply to it. Okay, so this is what the accompanying worksheets will look like. And I'm sorry, it doesn't look like a piece of paper for some reason. Okay, but this is the one that goes along with lesson 2, which is classroom management and assessment. So let's just read this question. Think of your students in your classroom. Write down students' names who would be good to be your sprinkled throughout the room students. Then write down the students who need to be placed next to these sprinkled throughout the room students. And you're probably like, what in the world is she talking about? But if you watch lesson 2, I promise that'll make sense. So each corresponding worksheet has about 3 to 4 questions. And my goal with that is for you to work through the worksheets and thinking of your own unique classroom, because what you're going to learn, you need to know how to apply it to your unique teaching situation. So these worksheets really help guide you along. And they're going to be right here where it says emtbcourse.zip. Every single worksheet is right there. But not only that, since you stayed until the end, I want to tell you about that special surprise. If you purchase the Elementary Music Teacher Academy after the webinar, you'll get to schedule a 30-minute one-on-one teacher training call with me for free, which is a $50 value. This is a webinar-only offer you won't see anywhere else. So you can purchase the Elementary Music Teacher Academy by heading to thedomesticmusician.com/thedomesticmusician subscription, or simply go to thedomesticmusician.com and click on the Learn tab. And these teacher training calls will come up with strategies and ideas to help you move forward in your teaching. You'll be able to ask any questions pertaining to your teaching, including what lessons to teach, classroom management questions, or even just how to teach music to your students. Don't just take my word for it. I want you to see what some of my students have said. Hi, Jessica. I just joined the Elementary Music Teacher Academy, and it's such a blessing. I begin a new job Monday teaching pre-K to 11th grade in a small private school with no budget. I am quite overwhelmed but excited. I spent the day watching your videos, and OMG, they were godsend. Thank you, Christiana, K to 11th music teacher. I've been taking extensive notes on the Elementary Music Teacher Blueprint course. It has helped quite a bit and makes me feel a bit more confident. Thank you again for providing all this great content for all of us new teachers. Daniel, Elementary Music Teacher. And I love the simplicity of your PDF files and personally printed off the 20 filler activities and added that to my extra time folder. I also really appreciated your 45-minute class period breakdown. I'm still experimenting to find what works for me in my classroom, so this was very helpful to me and gave me a new structure to try, and that's Tammy, who's an elementary music teacher. Thanks again for sharing your great experience and talent. Looking forward to learning from you and having fun while implementing these great ideas. And that's Emily, who's an elementary music teacher. So the choice is yours. Are you ready to transform your teaching today? You have 2 options. Stay frustrated and keep trying to figure out teaching elementary music all on your own, or get the help, resources, and support you've been needing all in one place. After clicking on the Learn tab, you're going to be able to enroll. I wanted to mention that the Academy is cheaper than attending the cost of an in-person workshop, which I do believe those are very, very important, by the way. But with the cost of traveling, food, and hotel, it gets kind of costly. So think about how much professional development you can get just from sitting in your pajamas at home. Plus, since you get 24/7 lifetime access, you can rewatch any of the trainings and access any of the PDF resources. Always there to answer your questions through email, by the way, you guys. Any questions you have along the way, I respond to my students all the time. Also, I wanted to mention that at the end of each month, I donate 10% of all sales to the VH1 Save the Music Foundation or the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation. I believe every school should have music, and I'm passionate about helping to make this happen. Now, before I answer some commonly asked questions, and then before we go, I want to share my 3 favorite music education quotes I told you about earlier. Music education opens doors that help children pass from school into the world around them, a world of work, culture, intellectual activity, and human involvement. The future of our nation depends on providing our children with a complete education that includes music, and that's by Gerald Ford, and I always have loved having this quote hanging up in my classroom. Music enhances the education of our children by helping them to make connections and broadening the depth with which they think and feel. If we are to hope for a society of culturally literate people, music must be a vital part of our children's education, and that's by Yo-Yo Ma. And I would teach children music, physics, and philosophy, but most importantly, music. For the patterns in music and all the arts are the keys to learning, and that's by Plato. All right, you guys, we have reached the question and answer portion, and so I'm going to come back to you now where you can see me again. Give me one quick second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there I am. Well, hello there. All right, you're still with me. That's amazing. All right. So what I've done is I've compiled some of the most commonly asked questions that you probably have questions about as well. And then if you have any more questions that are not answered right now, feel free to email me anytime at jessica@thedomesticmusician.com, and I would love to answer any questions you have to help you along. Can I earn professional development credit? Okay, so this answer is tricky because it's definitely up to your particular school or your district. So I just know every district, every state, every school, if you're at a private school, is different in what they accept for professional development. So if they would accept this count it towards professional development credit, I am more than willing and happy to send you a professional development certificate and with how many hours of video training and all that you've watched. So it's kind of a teacher by teacher basis, okay? So what sets this apart from other curriculum or online programs? So to be honest with you, I created this because I saw a need. And because this is something I would have loved to have when I was starting out in my elementary music teaching career. So I'm not going to name exactly, I know what you're thinking. And I know there's so many different products, curriculum, in-teacher workshops, trainings, which are 100% necessary and incredible resources for you as a music teacher. What I'm offering you is a chance to get mentorship, community, and training, like the little things nobody tells you about when it comes to teaching elementary music that you will not see anywhere else. My heart, and I hope you've seen this by now, and passion is to help you and to help guide you and mentor you the way that I think an elementary music teacher needs to be mentored. And so that is why I'm constantly offering new trainings and putting new resources inside the academy. And if you ever have any lesson ideas, I am more than willing to create those for you. Do I offer refunds? Okay, this is also a case-by-case basis, but because there's a lot of PDF resources, refunds are kind of tricky for me because I want, if you purchase this, for you to be committed. So I do want you also to be happy with your purchase. So I would be willing to offer a refund if you're 100% not satisfied for whatever reason. But I also want you to really think before you purchase. Think about everything I talked about today. Really read through the sales page and say, is this something I need before you purchase, okay? I've actually can honestly tell you, I've only had one request for a refund ever, and it was a retired teacher who, he already retired. And so he purchased the Elementary Music Teacher Academy, and said, I love the resources in here and I love what you're doing for new music teachers and I love what you're doing for elementary music teachers, period, but it's not for me because I'm retired. And then I thought, well, why did you purchase it? So that, what I'm going to say about refunds is it's a case by case basis. Okay. I have only had one person ever request for a refund. And like I said, it's because he was a retired teacher. Those are the main questions I have gotten. And like I said, if you ever have any more questions, I promise you I will respond. I've always responded to any of my members, or if you're just curious about the Academy and you're wanting to ask questions that maybe you don't see answered on the sales page or have not been answered for you in this webinar, I would be more than willing to speak with you about that, okay? So I want you to, even if you do not purchase, to walk away with confidence as an elementary music teacher. Rewatch this webinar if you need to. Take those strategies we talked about into your classroom so you can teach with confidence. Go tomorrow, excuse me, to your school and teach with confidence, knowing that you are equipped, you are qualified, and you are teaching music to your students for a reason. No, I honestly 100% believe this. No one else can teach those kiddos like you are. There's only one you, and you can have confidence. Don't doubt yourself for 1 second, because remember what we talked about. Sometimes it just takes time. It just takes experience to get that confidence that you need. And so I want to encourage you to just keep teaching music to your students because they need you and they need to learn music. I had so much fun today, and I'm so glad you could join me. And I really do appreciate you showing up today, because that's the first step in gaining the confidence you need to teach elementary music. All right, y'all. I will see you soon. Bye.